WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And once you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We about to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about, here sometimes will get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax.
Welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. Well, like always, people, we got a lot of things to talk about this week. And joining me, of course, in We Rise Studio, my brother, Mark. And of course, Mac is here as well. We Rise Nation in the building. It's good to have you back, Mark. We got a lot to talk about on the Grown Men Podcast.
There's a whole lot going down. I mean, hope everybody is doing well as can be. And we're going to jump right into things here. Let y'all know what's going on.
Well, Mark, I said it before and I say it again. We saw this coming. We knew exactly what Felon 47 and his minions had planned. We knew exactly. And the Supreme Court told us everything we needed to know in a 6-3 ruling on voting rights. And Mark, I'll tell you, it's a lot for us to unpack. I know you got a lot to talk about. Why don't you give your perspective about what's going on right now?
So basically, just to try to clarify, the 6-3 ruling was for the state of Louisiana, because about a couple years prior to that, Louisiana had passed a districting map that gave Louisiana a second black congressional district, basically. So let me just start off by saying this. The state of Louisiana, for those who don't know, is 30% of the state is African American. Actually, it's a little bit more than 30%.
Right.
Probably say around like 40%. So, I mean, it's one of those states that have a whole bunch of black folks. And what was happening for a long time is that they didn't have representation. So, the Supreme Court, about like a year and a half ago, approved the map that gave Louisiana a second district, a congressional district. Now, recently, what they have ruled was to say that was basically racist. It was saying it was racist towards white people in that state, which on its face is like, beyond ridiculous. But what they're trying to argue is that they're not taking away black votes, but what they are doing by like eliminating the seat is taking away black representation. So for a sample, if you have a district where it's like mostly black people, they will have to travel elsewhere to vote for a candidate. Like, they're not going to have that candidate. It's going to pretty much be tied, like lumped all together.
Right.
So it's kind of like if you have a household, says like about 10 people in your household, and your neighbor next door have a household of like, 5-6 people, they're going to count both households as one, like pretty much one vote that can come from that household. Like everybody else's opinion in those two houses don't matter.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those situations to me where the way I see it is that, look, especially in the southern states, black folk only have a few representatives. I mean, down in Mississippi, our mother's friend, Benny Thompson, has been the only representative down there for so long. So it's one of these situations where we knew that this was coming and it was set up to happen. The problem is, once again, we have to lean on the Democratic Party because playing Mr. Nice Guy doesn't get you anywhere. And I heard people talking about it this week because, of course, there are going to be lawsuits. They're already filing those lawsuits down there in Louisiana right now. Mark Elias is all over it, and his firm is all over it because Landry, the governor down there, is trying to run back and change the districts right away. And down there in Tennessee, they're trying to do the same thing. And of course, Mississippi is going to follow suit, and Arkansas, and so on and so on.
Alabama is already changing. I mean, because Landry is he's holding up votes right now because they were supposed to have a vote for like a new Congress representative out there. But I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, I mean, because a lot of people who don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff, who's like, apolitical or whatever you want to call it, like, okay, well, that's the Supreme Court ruling that like, happened in that state. And as you just said right there, it's like it affects every state down there, and it can affect all 50 states. Because that's the thing with these Supreme Court rulings are very effective and important because it sets a standards for like the entire nation. The same way when they have rolled back Roe v. Wade.
Exactly.
They're like abortion rights. Now, many people could say like, well, that doesn't affect Illinois too much or New York and those nice blue states. Like, right now it doesn't, but you got to think about all the people that's out south right now that does affect, and not having proper representation when you talk about these southern states. Louisiana is 1/3 of the state is black African American people. That, excuse me for earlier, but like having lack of representation makes everything wildly uneven, and it affects all kind of things from employment and educational opportunities. Also affects law enforcement, housing. I mean, it sets the standards, and when you don't have that representation to fight on your behalf, that's money out of your pocket. That's zoning rights and violations and all those sort of things. That's why it's important to have somebody representing. That's why representation is important, to have somebody speaking on your behalf, speaking for your people. And when you don't have that representation, it's going to hurt a lot of things. That's why the Census Bureau is very important. They do this every 10 years to do the whole census count to see how many people are in what area. That's why all those important, because I remember it used to be like a running joke, as far as black people didn't want to give a count of how many people was in that household and things like that. But those are very important to have a number of who was living where, for you can get resources that are needed.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, look, we know what this is on the surface, but as you said, Mark, if you dig deeper, it's something bigger than this, because it will affect all 50 states. Because you have to look at it in terms of a Supreme Court ruling rules over the land. Now, that's something that I think needs to be tinkered with, and we've talked about this before. Why do we have a Supreme Court? That's my whole point. The reason why we had in the first place is for people to settle petty grievances about whether they want to be racist or anything else under the sun. When it failed in the local court, then they went to the federal court. When it failed there, they went to the Supreme Court to try to get a permanent ruling. And right now, the people that are being in the Supreme Court, why don't they get voted on? Why can't those people be voted out? Some of them stay in there too long. And we know Uncle Ruck, he'll be around till the day he drop. They'll be putting blood plasma in his hand because he hates himself. He hates his skin color, as we talked about before here on the Grown Men Park podcast. Mark and I have discussed this several times about Clarence Thomas and the type of person that he is. So this is right up his alley. John Roberts is right up their alley, and Drunk Kavanaugh and the other people that are on that Supreme Court who decided to rule against voting rights.
Well, what you call it for is like term limits. Let's kind of like roll it back real quick. So with the Supreme Court, when things matters and like issues get brought up, they had a certain kind of process that they're not following it anymore. It had to be some kind of offense, some kind of situation that has to be called up. I mean, and as you said, once it didn't rule in the lower courts. I mean, anything just can't go up to the Supreme Court. Like if you had like a speeding ticket or something like that, and you was trying to fight it locally and you lost, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's not going to be able to work its way up. It would have to be a matter that like involved a mass amount of people, and that used to have to be put on the dockets. Now what the Supreme Court have done in the recent years was these shadow dockets.
Right. That's what I'm saying, Mar. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's what I was saying, because I have saw some frivolous things go to the Supreme Court. There were a couple cases that were really frivolous.
Right. And these shadow dockets, it actually started under the Obama administration when they started like for example, Obama was trying to push a bill, excuse me for not knowing the exact name of it or whatever, but it was concerning global warming, a global warming initiative.
Right.
And the Supreme Court just like pretty much vetoed that right away. And they didn't even allow to like listen to like, arguments for it. That's when they start creating these like shadow dockets, which they will make rulings and decisions, or like, decide to like, hear up cases over that. So basically, let's take it back to what you just said with you got these guys, these Supreme Court justices who's been in there too damn long.
Right.
And it's like that is a lifetime appointment. And that appointment is only done by the President of the United States. And they do get voted on by the Senate.
Right.
And chances are, most times, the Senate is going to go along with the president, what they want, especially if it's the president of their party. So, I mean, it becomes a situation where, like, yeah, you got these guys that's been in there like a long time, and they don't have the same values as most of America have. Because if you're talking about somebody that's in their 70s still on the bench, I mean, who is them to say about like, what's going on or what's not going on in the community that's in today's, fast growing economy and situations that's like, happening in the neighborhoods and things like that.
Well, I just think about the people like John Lewis, and I think about Dr. Martin Luther King, the Harry Belafontes, and all the other people during that era. The Medgar Evers. I mean, the list goes on and on. When we think about what is going on right now to the Voting Rights Act, and it's just they're taking pieces off of it, and it's meaningless to them. But this is a celebration for all the people, as you said before, who wanted to see this, who've been planning this for over 50 years. Ever since it's been on the document, they've been continuing to go after this thing. And it's going to have a ripple effect, and it already is, as we talked about. Several states are trying to do the same thing, right? As we can see, southern states, they're targeting black voters. They're basically saying, look, we know that you don't vote for us, so we're going to make it hard to vote for you. As I've heard several people say, right? They come out and they say, how can you have no representation for people of color in people of color districts? It makes no sense at all.
But what they're trying to argue is that it's not racist because, I mean, if it's racist, you have to prove where's the racism at? Because they're basing because they're not using the same language that they used to use back in the day.
No.
When they used to sit there, flat out call somebody the, N word and stuff like that. That you can sit there and point oh, he said this, so that's racist. So you're not going to see any politician that's going to flat out and say yeah, I'm not going to give, this job because, he's black or she's black or a woman or anything like that. What they do is use other ways to hide behind that. Of course. So with basically this whole thing is what they're gonna argue is that what we're doing is for the people's in that state right for the party. This is not a Democratic state, so we shouldn't have Democratic representation out there. Or as much of it. So it's not a race thing, it's a Democratic thing, but that's where it gets they try to mix you up and confuse you with that whole level. Bottom line is, yes, they're trying to eliminate that black vote, pushing all the way back to when Obama was winning in North Carolina, because that was the first time that the state of North Carolina overwhelmingly voted for the Democrat in the presidential election. Then pretty much the year after that, they changed the maps and changed the rules, and they eliminated a lot of Democratic seats back then.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where they're trying to garner and gain more seats, right? But what they're trying to do right now is they don't want to make this felon 47 a lame duck president, which he's heading for in November if things hold the way they are now. If we even have elections. Because once again, that's a big if, Mark. We've discussed it before here on the Grown Men Podcast, as they are looking at ways to play with the votes right now. They're trying to find ways for us to not vote. They're trying to find hurdles and things that we won't leap over. But as I've said before, I don't give a damn if I have to stand in a line for 12 hours. I don't care how many loopholes you throw at me. I am going to continue to vote against anything that has to do with Felon 47. And that's what we need to do. And that means all of us who care about democracy, who care about fair play in elections, that's what we need to be out here fighting and doing. And people that are sitting on the sidelines, don't do it anymore. It's over with. It's time for you to either put up or shut up. Because I'm tired of having these conversations every day with knuckleheads and people who I see who complain about this and complain about that. But when it's time to go to the poll, where are they at? They're nowhere to be seen. Put up or shut up. If you like what's going on, love it. Own it. Don't run away from it. Don't make up excuses why you're not what you want to be. No, you look at the fact that you did nothing when it was time for you to let your voice be heard. You did absolutely nothing. So right now they're gutting the Voting Rights Act, Mar. But I'm just fired up on it.
Well, no, what most of the country is pretty much not happy with what's going on. So chances are the Democrats gonna more likely take the House, and they could take the Senate too. I can see that happening, but it's also again with the Democrat, because this is why people a lot of people that you spoke of feel that they vote don't matter, because for a long time now, for a very long time, they have been disappointed with both parties, because the truth of the matter is these Democrats have shifted so much to the center right, where it's they almost look like Republicans, or they're at best coming off as Republican light, because they get tied up into these cultural war issues that the Republican stars, by the way. When they sit there and go after things like immigration and trans and stuff,
right.
It's the same buzzwords all the time. You hear Felon 47 talk about it all the time. You hear the Republicans and stuff talk about, they bring up all these these like, lazy people that don't want to work jobs and they're getting free checks and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're never calling out people who gets these government subsidies and stuff like that, like the billionaire class and all that kind of stuff. So what the Democrats make the mistake is like they feel that the Republicans is going to screw it up so bad, which they always do. I mean, anytime they have power, these so-called conservative, they do everything but conserve. Like, because what are they conserving? Because they spend more money than anybody. I mean, the deficit always goes up anytime that you have Republican in the White House. That's just the truth. That's just the facts.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie.
Well, that's
whether
the
it
facts.
be wars, whether it be inflations, whatever it is. I mean, but these folks been a party of like, conserving and not spending as much and all that kind of stuff. Democrats make the mistake when they once again like do like the bare minimum. And the people are tired of accepting the bare minimum. We're tired of voting for the lesser of two evils. And then you get the sense of like, well, both parties don't give a crap about the people that's in the street struggling, because you always hear them talk about the middle class. The middle class, I mean, never do they bring up I guess you could say like low middle class or the broke class.
Right. The
people that's struggling. Right. They don't try to go after those voters. They don't reach out to those people that's like, really, really struggling. I mean, they talk about them in passing, but it's always the middle class, and that pretty much translates to the suburban voters. You're not talking about the like inner city guys too much, unless you're talking about like, criminal defense or criminal law and order, or like, policing and stuff. Then that becomes an urban issue where it's like, okay, you might try to get some black folks' attention. Bottom line is things cannot go back to what they were. You can't go back to business as usual, and you can't sit there and think that America's fever is going to break, because America, the news flash is that white Americans, have been thinking along these same lines for a long time. I mean, MAGA isn't something new. It's just something that's been amplified. Mm-hmm. Like these thoughts that, like, white people have, of whether they're privileged folks and all that kind of stuff, they don't want to see other people getting ahead of them, or they don't want to have that feeling.
Right.
I mean, that's the main problem right there. Like, Democrats need to do a better job of addressing these issues. And when you run these same candidates out there that's going to sit there and talk and do the same thing, and they also taking corporate money, campaign donations from the same folks that's donating to like Republicans, and I'm talking about AIPAC, and I'm talking about these pharmaceutical companies and these oil companies.
Dark money coming in always.
Who continue to sit there and go up on these gas prices as we speak right now. Those are the same people that sit there and like, write the fat checks like to these politicians, and that becomes a big issue for the regular non-voting community. But at the same time, though, like, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you choose not to vote, then, I mean, you get what you got. You're going to get another Trump. But next time it's going to be a smarter Trump. You're probably going to get a Tucker Carlson in there, because he's been, sounding real good to like some folks where he's, calling out Trump over this whole Iran war situation and all that kind of stuff. He's shining himself up, but let's not forget that this is the same guy who talk about dirty immigrants and talk about like, they come in and make the country filthy, and said that this is a white country, this is a Christian company, using that type of language. But he's going to be looking good to a whole lot of folks, and he's going to fool people into voting for him. But he's much smarter than Trump.
Exactly. Well, it's going to be one of them situations that we're going to continue to monitor here on the Grown Men Podcast, because voting rights are our rights. All Americans in this country. It's our right, and this is what we should be able to do, but we're going to continue to talk about it. But Mark, I wanted to move on to another topic, and that is about the black Republicans that are leaving, right? And so, there's so much controversy and stories about that going on right now, where people are saying, well, the black Republicans won't have any representation. And of course, down there in Texas, we were speaking earlier offline about what's his name? I can't think of his name. It went right out of my head. The congressman.
Yeah, I know you're talking about it. It popped up my head too. Oh no, not Burris.
He's retiring. But I'm speaking of the other one. But either way the case, he's speaking about how he wants to be judged by the content of his character and not his skin color and that whole deal. Well, keep dreaming on. I mean, if that's what you really believe and you really think you're judged on that, because he basically said that he won his district, right, by 25 points. And Trump won the district by 20 points. So he was like, he outperformed Trump in that district. So he really holding steady to the fact that he said he don't care if any black people are here.
Wesley Hunt.
He said he didn't care if any black people were here. So, I mean, what do you say to that? You know, we have Tim Scott, once again, another one, who gets on television and lies and continues to lie and shuck and jive and rub my head for good luck. Like I said, his grandfather was on the Three Stooges. But what do you have to say about it?
You know, we talked
black
about
Republican.
We talked about that before. I mean, like a couple times on previous podcasts. I mean, think about these black Republicans, particularly, I should say these MAGA black Republicans out here. I mean, these are the ones that's all about self. I mean, this is to help. I mean, bottom line. I mean, they're to help. They whole thing is to get as close to whiteness as possible. I mean, these are black white supremacists.
Yeah,
is what they are. Yeah. I mean, because they it is like they don't believe in, like, you know what I'm saying, putting in the work to uplift the like community as large. I mean, because basically they don't want to, you know, they don't want to share. Like once they get their foot in the door, whatever, they pretty much close the door behind them.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel it's more like it serves their purpose more to be like pretty much like the only one. And they think they special until they get that wake up call. I mean, that's the thing. They want to be like the only one in the room. They want to be able to, like, you know, shine and say like, hey, I got my seat at the table and all that kind of stuff, because they don't want to compete either. They don't want to compete fairly. I mean, it's just like when we talk about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, he started off his career, or I mean, basically back in college. I mean, he was all about he was all into Malcolm X and the Black Power movement and all that kind of stuff. Like he's a big fan, big supporter of all that, like a black nationalist and all that kind of stuff. Once he got out of college and, you know, was trying to get jobs to practice law or whatever, like, you know, firms wasn't hiring him because he had to compete. And the thing about Clarence Thomas, like he's a very intelligent man. It's just that he's not very well spoken,
right,
as much. And, like, you know what I'm saying, if he's trying to compete, like say he's trying to compete against a guy who is like well spoken, like a Barack Obama or something like that, like some of those people that's very good with their words and all that sort of thing. So he wasn't getting a whole lot of jobs, and then he sit there and flip towards, like, you know what I'm saying, the Republican side, or the so-called conservative side of the aisle, where they can use him because they can point at him like, look, how can we be racist if we got this black guy right here?
Right.
Same thing, they take a Wesley Hunt. How can we be racist when we got this black representation right here, right in front of you? Look, I got this one black friend.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, Wesley Hunt is an opportunist, and he already seen that door closed up on him real quick when he was trying to run for Senate.
Exactly.
He only got like about 2% of the vote.
Exactly.
They didn't want that. I mean, because he's not bringing nothing fresh to the table. He's just a black Republican guy. So, I mean, he's going to do and say whatever he got to say because he's looking for a job. I mean, after this, he's looking for some kind of foot in the door. Maybe he's trying to get a part of this Felon 47 administration, or like one of the white guys that's running for like Senate out there in Texas. If they win, maybe he can, like, you know what I'm saying, get on their staff. But he's going to do whatever he's going to do to benefit Wesley Hunt, not black people.
Absolutely right. Because, see, Wesley Hunt, let me tell you, when I was reading about him, because I did some read up on him, and he got his white wife and his biracial kids. And let's see how Wesley Hunt feels if a gun is drawn on his black son when he grows up. Let's see how he feels then. He's 44 years old right now. I think he got a son maybe about 5 or 6 or 7, somewhere in that range. But how's he going to feel when he grow up and he get that gun drawn on him because of his skin color, Mr. I'm colorless. Look, we all know that in the dark, everybody is the same color, but we don't live in the dark. We live in the light. So you have to look yourself in the mirror and really honestly, with the skin tone that you have, you're going to honestly say you don't see any skin color and you think no one else sees that? No, that's bull. You, along with Byron Donalds, along with Tim Scott and Burgess and the rest of them who are retiring, you wanted to see more of yourself. You wanted to be bigger. You wanted to be in the crowd. You want to know what it was like to move around with the other people. But the point that you're not getting is you're not one of them. And they will not accept you. You can do whatever you want to. You can tap dance, take your hat off, let them rub your head for good luck. Whatever you think you want to do, but that skin color still says black. And they'd rather vote for anybody before they vote for you. You won in Trump district because you ran Trump's game plan. And they don't like nothing better than a black man who speaks down on other black people. That's all you have to do. Just ask Stephen A. Smith and the rest of them. Because they do the same thing all the time. They speak down on black people, they get more money. It's not a coincidence. This is what is happening right now in society. So the black Republicans, they always talk about they got these ideas and these plans, and we never see policy. As recently, Tim Scott got on television and actually said this out of his mouth that gas prices was going down when it's the exact opposite. Show us policy, don't tell us lies. And once again, these black celebrities will fall for it because they don't have a dog in the fight. They're already wealthy. They already have money. So of course they're going to go along with what you're saying. And the ones that don't have any money, they're trying to grift their way to the top. So for these black Republicans, until you show black people policy, you can miss me with that garbage because I ain't trying to hit.
But they have no interest in doing that at all. I mean, first of all, what Tim Scott have did, what Tim Scott did there was just follow the script, because that's what all Republicans do. That same way at the failed assassination of Trump or whatever, like a week ago or last weekend and stuff at the correspondent dinner and all that kind of stuff. They like immediately came out with the script like, yeah, well, this is why we need to have a presidential ballroom and all that kind of garbage and stuff. It's like everybody was saying it. I seen on social media, somebody did a collage of videos of all the people pretty much saying the same thing. The same thing. I mean, it's like it's part of the script. So this is part of their script to say, oh, there's no racism. I mean, how could there be racism when you elected a black president and all that kind of stuff? Right. I mean, it goes along all the time because that's the talking point, and it's for, like, you know what I'm saying, what the people have to do. We the people have to pay better attention to what's going on and not just, like, you know what I'm saying, listen to something. I mean, see what you see for your own eyes, because if there was no more racism, then you wouldn't have any sundown towns. You wouldn't have, like, you would be able to, like, travel anywhere you wanted to go and not be questioned by anything. Right. Like, there's no problem with like, no law enforcement and like, you know, different state having different laws. The problem is the execution of these laws. Right. The problem is that who these laws tend to be targeted towards. If it was fair down the middle across the board, like, people wouldn't just get pulled over for, like, random reasons because they look a certain way or because they're talking about a tail light or whatever the case that they come up with. And that's the whole thing. And like you just, you know, mentioned, when it comes to these like, you know, celebrities like a Stephen A. Smith and things like that, he's not going to have the problems that you and I have. I mean, he's far away from that. At one point of his life, when he was growing up poor in New York or whatever the case was and stuff, I mean, he's well away from that. And that's the problem with, like, many black celebrities as it is once they get money, they pretty much forget what they came from, or they didn't forget, they just don't want to know about that life anymore. Right. It's like, hey, I'm good right now, so you need to get up and get on, you know what I'm saying, get on your grift or your grind or whatever it is to make some money, which is pretty much leads back to the whole biggest problem is, like, yeah, capitalism, get money, get paid. That's what everybody think about doing and having because they feel that money is going to protect them, but it's not, is basically what you're pointing out. even a Stephen A. Smith, you know, at the end of the day, he's still a Negro. And he can't change that.
Exactly.
Because he's going to go to a certain place where, like, you know what I'm saying, that they don't know or care to know who he is, and they're going to sit there and give him his Negro wake-up call.
Yeah, it's one of them situations where, you know, as I just said, you know, black Republicans, you know, they got their way of what they see, and what we see is two different things. We're not saying we're Democratic here because, as we said before, we need something better than a two-party system. But however, when it comes to making a choice about who's putting my family in a good situation and who put them in a bad situation, I'm never going to roll with the Republican side because they don't have anything for us at all.
No, they don't try to. And that's pretty much the main problem. I mean, that's why you see, you know, so many black people will vote Democrats, because Republicans, they don't even try. They don't even make the attempt to, like, you know, do anything for anybody that's not white and male, basically.
Right.
If you go down the list of all their policy, it's not going to offer you. It's going to offer you very little. I mean, they will sit there and try to hide a whole lot of things and stuff, like, oh, make it look like we're trying to do this for everybody. Like, we're not looking. We are colorblind. We're not looking at race at all and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty much a flat out lie. Because you can look at the policies, and that's what more people need to do. Look at what they are actually doing. I mean, like those roads and bridges out there in those southern states, you see the way the conditions are. And these southern states have been led by Republicans for a very, very long time.
Yep.
Look at your education. Look at your health care.
Yep.
Look at the job opportunities. Look at the roads and bridges and infrastructures and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening right now.
Not to mention, also now with AI going on, as we talked about on the podcast before, with AI going on, they're trying to build all these places down there that's using those carbines and all that stuff that causes cancer. Because all those turbines and things running at the same time creates a lot of friction, and that friction creates radiation. And that radiation is right there in the black communities.
Yep.
That's why so many people down there in Louisiana, they are against that. Elon Musk coming down there and trying to build things. All of these places they're doing it at is in southern states, because that's where the Republican stronghold is. And unfortunately, a lot of us as black Americans, we live there. And a lot of times, yeah, it's by choice because we like that slower pace of life. That's fine. And we should be able to move in that space if that's what we want to do. Me, I would say to hell with them and get the hell from down there and let them have it. That's my opinion. Because we got relatives down there. We got people down there. We can't do that. But that's what I would like to tell them. I would like to tell them they can take them southern states and stick them where the sun don't shine. That's what I'd like to say. But because of the people that I have down there, our family members and other black Americans that are down there, that's who we're standing up for. Because as I said before, I can get by with a lot of different things. We talk about gas prices and things of that nature. They don't affect me because I can get around that. But for people that it does affect, those are the people who we're speaking for. That's why we do this podcast and we talk about these issues, because they need to be heard. Our voices need to be heard. Their voices need to be heard. We have opinions, we have thoughts, and we are going to give them. Because that's what everybody needs to do, Mark. It's one of them situations where we have to speak loudly, whether it's voting or whether it's getting on podcasts, whether it's going online, whether it's talking to people in person and saying, hey, checking in with them. How you doing? What is your situation looking like? How are you feeling today? Anything like that to try to uplift somebody instead of putting somebody down. So that's what I said before. I don't see nothing that the Republican Party is doing that's helping us with our plight.
No, they're not. And again, it's not in their interest. And until the people stand up and push it, push them to do that. I mean, they pretty much know where their stronghold is, and the Democrats actually helped them out a whole lot, because anytime when you have these wavering Democrats who don't want to go all the way, or they want to sit there and they do things like, hold each other accountable, or call out like their own party members for like, doing things like, I don't know, if they sit there and want to like, holler about some like, yeah, what, why can't we have like, Medicare for all and all that kind of stuff, like universal health care, free health care. The first thing that come out their mouth is how they going to pay for it. And, every time it's something that's going to like, progress, like, for the best interest, because they don't want to take on those battles. Like, to be honest, like neither party, enjoy being in the leadership role. Like the Republicans, and many of them was talking about a couple days ago and stuff like, off camera, of course, like if you look at the dirt sheets, right, a lot of them cannot wait to get out of leadership because they can fight better being in the minority because they don't have to hold on to that like no responsibility of being expected to do something. And a lot of Democrats do the same thing. It's like we joke about it when we say like, yeah, sometimes I think you want to lose. Right. But like a lot of them do because they're able to raise more money that way because they don't want to do the old fashioned way of going door to door and like doing that door knocking and stuff and like being confronted by people in real time about issues. They don't want to catch that heat. They want to like, raise the, go around. They want to do their fundraising and stuff. Being they call like some of these rich billionaires like Cory Booker once said, like, well, there are some good billionaires out there. Right. I mean, it's not about good and bad. It's about when you are a public official that you elected by the public, your job is to be a public servant. And that job is to get rights and resources for the people. That's what you're fighting for. That's pretty much all we can ask for politicians is rights, resources, and safety. Those are the key things that everybody should have in their mind. Shouldn't be worrying about like, oh, is some kind of trans person going to use the ladies' washroom or be in a volleyball game or something like that? I mean, because how often did that happen? Is transsexuals taking over the world or whatever? Or if somebody has a gay son, are you upset if he's wearing a dress at the age of 9 years? I mean, that's social things that should be dealt with within that community or whatever. It shouldn't be put up on no national stage, and you shouldn't be like, force fed this like, false information about, the Democrats are trying to make people gay or they're trying to do, things of that nature. It's about rights and resources and your safety. That's what you need to be focused on. So again, if the Democrats are empowered, they need to be held accountable and pushed to do the right thing. And they don't want to like, some of them don't. And the ones that don't need to go is basically what I'm getting at. When you see Democrats that can't have a clear-eyed answer on issues, they got to stumble around and things like that. Those are people that needs to go. You need to find out when their next re-election is going to happen and who can be ran against them. So it takes an effort for us, the people. And I know that I say it all the time, we get busy in life with jobs, working, kids, all that kind of stuff. But it's some fundamental things that you need to be paying attention to that you can do something about.
Yeah, it's one of those situations, Mark, we're going to continue to monitor and talk about on the Grown Men Podcast because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have a lot of issues. But once again, and I'm going to end this with this, I'm tired of people sitting there comparing these two and talking about the rhetoric on the gun violence side and all that stuff because we know that that's a whole bunch of crock that the Republican Party throws out there. Nobody wants to kill Felon 47. They just wish he would not be president anymore. And some people, they might wish he just fall off and die, but I just wish that he wouldn't be in our way running our life. I don't care what he does in his private life. That's his business. He can live till he's 150, long as he's out of our way and he's not dictating policy that affects us.
So no, I mean, and I'll speak on that real quick too, because like, most of us, most people don't want to see Felon 47 be murdered. What they would rather see him is in an orange jumpsuit and behind bars and being held accountable for all the atrocities and crimes that he has committed and continues to commit on a daily basis. But this is a real problem with this country is that anytime you hear, you see and hear about any kind of political assassination attempt, the first thought is what side was they on? Right. Who team was they with? I mean, we're all supposed to be human beings, period, first and foremost.
Exactly.
It don't matter if you believe in God or whatever, and when you die, when you go to heaven and stuff like that, nobody's gonna see if you had a D or like an R on your back.
Right.
I mean, it's the most dumbest thing ever, and they sit there and go on these debates and stuff like that, and you go and these like crazy lunatics, and then you had you had Charlie Kirk's wife with that bizarre thing that she did on TPUSA podcast, broadcast, or whatever she had going on.
Right, I saw that.
Looking crazy, looking like a sniper herself. I mean, it was like beyond ridiculous. And you talking about all these crazy lunatic leftist people where you could easily look up if you care to look up of the most dangerous people in the country, or the people that's been trying to do these assassination attempt. They all been pretty much mostly right wing. Okay, it's like about 63%. It's probably more than that, but more importantly, because I always like to see, I always take a little chuckle out of when they want to put up Dr. King next to Abe Lincoln and Trump and all these people, and they say look at all these people have in common is that it's been Democrats that tried to assassinate them. Even more so than it's been all Democrats that tried to assassinate him. It's been all attempts done by white men.
Exactly.
How about we say that? Right. Nobody never like to say about that, all these political assassination attempts and stuff. Those been all white men. Right. So if you want to sit there and label or say who should and shouldn't have guns, why don't we start with white man? Why don't we get all the guns out of the white people's hands? Right. But you don't want to say that, do you? Because that's that's gonna open up a whole big can of worms that they don't want to open up. Yeah, it's one of them situations we're going to continue to monitor and talk about here on the Grown Men Podcast, because politically right now, everything is up in the air. And come November, there is going to be a reckoning. Another topic I wanted to talk about, Mark, is something that happened here locally in the city of Chicago, and that is the police officer. Of course, it was two of them that shot. One is still in the hospital. The other one, unfortunately, didn't make it. So much going on with that story, and it's all tying into once again, people are leaning on the Safety Act. And I was speaking to someone earlier this week about that, and I said, that's going to make it harder for other people who commit minor crimes that are not serious. Because once again, with these laws and policies, they always make it vague, right? Where if it's going to be one for all. No, it shouldn't have never been like that when they made the Safety Act. Safety Act should have been for someone who didn't show up for a court date, didn't commit a serious crime. But when you're talking about people who are out committing armed carjackings and robberies with assaults with deadly weapons, those people should not be allowed to have a cashless bail in the first place. And the judge who allowed him to go free to do what he was able to do, he's got to be responsible too. Well, yeah, it's one of those things where it's is you trying to fix a broken system, a system that's been broken for a long, long time, and it's very complicated to do, or at least it seems it's very complicated to do. But I think you have to simplify things. I mean, just like you said, if somebody has an assault weapon and they committed that type of crime, yeah, I mean, there should be no cash bail for that. I mean, representation, sure. Everybody should have a right to some kind of legal defense. I mean, it's in the Constitution. I mean, we know that. But it's just too many times that it's been the over flooding of a lot of people, getting arrested, going to jail, or staying in jail that couldn't afford to bail themselves out and came, that whole situation, right? So it's to me, for me, you pretty much got to break down the whole legal system, and just like you said, hold the judge accountable for that. those judges, the prosecutions, things like that, they should be held accountable and not just being voted out, because many judges in different areas are voted upon on in Chicago and also throughout the country. District attorneys, those are jobs that the people can vote for, but there should be rules and regulations and stuff like that that should be able to get have the judge be removed. There should be some kind of accountability and consequences immediately. And instead of have to wait around through this whole bureaucratic process and things of that, because it's not pleasing for the public, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, it's one of them situations where this story gets more stranger as we go because there's more levels to it, right? So at first, the report wasn't out. They didn't know where he got the gun from. Apparently, he was able to have a gun with him, even though the police was with him when they took him to the hospital, because he was complaining that he was injured. So they took him to the hospital, and all of a sudden he comes out from under the sheet that he was under when he was in a hospital bed, and he opened fires. Now, the thing is, he supposedly got this gun from a girl, from a chick. And she says she got the gun while she was high off fentanyl and mushrooms. So it's one of those situations and I've said this several times, they would rather you have guns and access to guns than votes. This is where we are in America. And it's plain and simple that people always talk about, how do they have so much gun violence in Chicago if the gun laws are so stringent? Well, the reason is because they're coming right over the border from Indiana, because that's where she bought that gun from. And guess what? That's where everyone buys their guns from. Because over there in Indiana, you don't have to say anything. Oh, I want a gun. Here you go. Point it out the one you want and they'll sell it to you. Sight unseen. Because that's what people do. They go over to Indiana in droves to get weapons because they're accessible. And why is that? Because the legislature over there, all they care about right now is luring the bears over there. We want the bears. Let's get those bears. That's all they're talking about, which is a totally different topic. Well, I don't want to get on that. I don't want to get off topic. But the situation is that these guns are coming from other places and into the city of Chicago, whether it's the surrounding suburbs or from Northwest Indiana. This is what is happening. And then they put them in the hands of people who are already felons. As the girl said, she got it for her boyfriend because he couldn't get no guns because he's a felon. This is what's going on. It's just a microcosm of what is going on in society. That's why there are guns on the streets. And once again, lawmakers are not going to do anything about it because it's not affecting them. They've watched children die for years and years in mass shootings, and they still don't do anything monumental on gun control. So this police officer had to lose his life. Why? Because for the simple fact they let someone who shouldn't buy a gun. That's why everybody in that case should be involved, from the girlfriend, they already caught up with his partner who carjacked somebody, and also the people who sold her that damn gun. Because that police officer would still be alive had they not sold it to him. And he should have been locked up a long time ago because his ankle monitoring was over with. And then they decided to say, okay, you're free to walk around like so many of these guys out here right now. They're walking around courtesy of the Safety Act, which is not supposed to have been for habitual criminals in the first place. But once again, it's bureaucracy. Because instead of these politicians sitting down and saying, let's go over some policy that makes sense, they just put a broad stroke over everything and say, okay, it's all the same. Whether you murdered somebody or shoplifted, that's the same thing. No, it's not. Because nobody dies during a shoplifting. But when it comes to somebody having a weapon that shouldn't have a weapon, and they take someone's life unnecessarily, that's an issue. And it needs to be addressed. And as you alluded to earlier, Mark, with these judges, when they get voted in, when they're on these ballots, check out their backgrounds. Do your due diligence. That's what I did. And a lot of those judges I saw on there, I didn't like what I saw, and I didn't vote for them. I left it blank. Because for the simple fact, if you don't prevent tragedies like this from happening, you don't deserve to be on the bench. You don't deserve to be representing the city of Chicago and the people of Chicago and Cook County when it comes to this. See, in DuPage County and up in Lake County, they don't play. I see cases all the time, like the guy just killed somebody. Take that with you. Take that 75 with you. You 27, your life is over with. Or go ahead and take that 55 with you. You 35, your life is over with. That's what DuPage County is doing. That's what Lake County is doing. And Cook County needs to do the same thing. Because when they commit these crimes, Mark, they need to go away a long time.
No, man, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the problem is it's not enough of a public outrage, unfortunately, when it all boils down to gun control. And I mean, because there are things that you can do, like just like when you have when you go to like, you know, buy a car, or you have a car or whatever, and that vehicle is like registered to you. I mean, there's no kind of gun registration laws. I mean, yeah, you can get it's like, basically what I'm trying to say is like, it should be a way to trace back that gun, the firearm. Like when somebody purchased one, like it should be some kind of notification, like your name can go into a database with the local law enforcement, for they can know, like, okay, this person has a gun, this person purchased this gun on this date, and this is the location when this is the location where the gun should be at. Like you should be happen to register in with your local law enforcement to like where the gun is going to be at, like, you know, what place you're going to have it in your house and so on. I mean, it could be like a number of things like that, but it's like not enough of a public outcry. Like, sure, we have a kid gets shot up in the school, or like there's like this mass school shooting, and we do thoughts and prayers, and then we move on, and quickly people, like, you know what I'm saying, play politics with it. When they sit there and go like, oh, you know, the Democrats going to be trying to call to take your guns away and things like that. It's not about taking away guns. It's about having gun laws, having accountability for a firearm. If you choose to have a gun, you should be able to account for where that gun is at all times. That way, if something happens to it, then, like, yes, it should be traced back. Like you said, the girlfriend should be responsible. The person that sold the gun to the girlfriend should be held accountable. Everybody should be. But nobody wants to do that. And it goes back to this whole Second Amendment argument and all this other nonsense. You don't see that in a lot of countries around the world.
Right.
You only see that happens here. Like in other countries, they don't have that. And even some of those third world countries, so-called third world countries, that like have the bombs and they get into these, like, you know what I'm saying, bombing wars and all that kind of stuff that's happening and all that kind of stuff. Even they don't have, I mean, even they have stricter policies against, like, you know, gun violence and things like that. You don't see that happen in a place like Japan.
Yeah, we talked about that Japan.
Brought that up, yeah.
We talked about that, about how it's very stringent for them to be able to get a gun.
Yeah, you can only get a certain kind of gun.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get like a powerful firearm like we have over here. It got to be pretty much like the weakest type of gun possible, because one, like the law enforcement out there don't want their citizens to be able to like overpower them.
Empower them, right.
And then you got to go and you got to register for the gun. They got to get they got to push you through like a gun safety course that you have to take. It's this long process. You got to go through all this stuff just to have a firearm there, and they need to know exactly where your gun is supposed to be at. Like you got to have a special place in your home, like a lock safety a secure box, a lockbox, all that kind of stuff. And the police need to know the location of that lockbox. And then if you decide that you want to move or you're going to move out and all that kind of stuff, they need to know about that, because they need to know where that gun goes, all that, et cetera, et cetera. And we do none of that here. we could, and I mean, if we was to like sit there and like seriously like address those issues and do just some of that, like, you know, make people take gun safety courses and make people like have to, like, I mean, same way when your license is about to expire, you know, they should do some kind of like, you know, follow up on you like every couple years or so, like even every 6 months to see like, yeah, what, yeah, you know, I don't know what's going on with your gun situation, but basically we choose to do none of that. And people gonna make an excuse talk about, oh, how much that would take, how long of the process, money involved, expensive, and all this kind of stuff, because it's not in the best interest of the people, the powers to be, unless we the people make it in their interest.
Right.
I just fear that like enough of us is just not on that same page, which brings up to another solution. Maybe like, you know, old Archie Bunker said, like, hey, give everybody a ride.
Right. Give everybody a gun.
I mean, maybe that has to be the whole solution, is to like put guns in the hands of everybody else, because back when the Black Panthers was carrying firearms in the 60s and the 70s, that's when it really became a problem.
Well, that's when it became a problem. They didn't have a problem with guns until they saw black people with guns, then it was a problem.
Not just black people with guns, but organized black people with guns.
Right.
That was actually trying to do something that like actually gave a damn about their community, that was trying to protect their community against the racist police.
Right. That was the only reason they had them.
Because they don't have a problem with black gangbangers having guns.
Right, because they know they're going to be aimed at each other. They don't fear that.
Exactly.
They want that because that eliminates the numbers.
So maybe, we start seeing more like organized people with firearms and marching around outside with them and all that kind of stuff. And we take community safety into our own hands and start like planning like that. Maybe they'll get the wake up call.
Yeah, it's one of those situations we're going to continue to monitor here on the Grown Men Podcast. Mark, you got anything you want to add to it?
That's pretty much all I had. Because we had went over, like, again, like going back to the whole, like, political stuff. Bottom line is, it's like we need better representation, excuse me. Our rights we are slowly losing our rights. I think out here in this country for like a long time, we have pretty much been too accustomed to the way things are, and we think that things can't get, it's not going to get any worse. So like we can't imagine reliving the way life was in the 50s, in the 60s, and way back when. Basically, I'm saying that we got lazy as people.
Right.
And, once you start seeing more things get taken away, maybe people will wake up. Hopefully it won't be too late at that point. But at some point, things going to it's going to come to a head, I believe. And I believe it's not like, hyperbolic to say that we can very well see another civil war happen in our lifetime. Because when we think about the Civil War and stuff like that, you think about, that was history and that had to happen because of the slavery thing and this and that, et cetera, et cetera. But like right now, we, in these United States, to me, I don't think it should even be called United States of America, because we've never been united.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit there and call it the States of America because they're states, because every state have their different rules and boundaries and all that kind of stuff. So we've never been united, and the more worse thing continue to be or to develop to be, the more it's going to come to a head. So I think people should be prepared, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're going to continue to monitor on the Grown Men Podcast, because these issues are continuing to happen. Well, folks, it appears our time is up. We glad you came in to listen to us on the Grown Men Podcast, talk about real issues that grown men should be talking about. I thank my brother Mark for coming in, and of course the MAC Mac. We Rise Nation is in the building as always. Mark, it's good to have you back on the Grown Men Podcast.
Always a pleasure, man. Steady rise. Everybody be safe, be smart. Like I said, don't get mad about none of this stuff. Get smarter. Simple as that. Pay attention to what's going on and take care of your people.
head on over to WeRiseNation.com. Check out the music, check out the blogs. We always got some different interesting things happen. Of course, check out our YouTube page as well, Grown Men Podcast, Instagram, Grown Man Podcast. A lot of different clips we're going to put up of things that we've said on the show that are pertinent to what's going on today. Well, until next time, I am your host, BAN, and we will talk to you soon.
The grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud.